Now, after I go through that crazy experience, and then I'm young, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna have no more kids no time soon, right? They expensive, they this, they that. Okay. So 2014, fast forward, 2014, I had my middle son. Absolutely perfect pregnancy. He went full term. As I had the C-section for him, because obviously I could have had him naturally, which I wanted to, but the doctors say, oh, if you have one C-section, you got to keep having C-sections, right? Again, not true, because you can have your first C-section and then you can have your second child normal, but they get paid more money for having having the C-section, right? So another reason why I'm like, okay, so this is all about money. And this wasn't just one doctor, this was like everybody on my team. Of course, being that I have high blood pressure when I get pregnant, I'm considered high risk. So this is what everybody was saying, like, oh, you need to have a C-section. So again, a young black woman, they're going to tell us what they want to tell us. So when I was having a C-section with him, they seen the cyst on my ovary. I didn't even know it was there. It didn't give him any problems. It just was there. And he was like, hey, when you're done having children, you're going to need to get this ovary removed. And I said, when I'm done having children, he was like, yeah. He said, it's not bothering you. You didn't even know it's there, but I can see it now that I'm here. And it was like 10 centimeters in 2014, right? Keep that in mind. So he was like, you don't have to take it out now, just whenever you're done having children. So I was like, okay, duly noted, right? Boom. Fast forward to 2018. I'm pregnant with my youngest son, all right? So with him, this pregnancy was a little different because it was always pressure, and it was so painful to walk. After I got about 6 months, it was just so painful and so exhausting, and I had to have the belly band on to like take the pressure up, because you have pressure during pregnancy, but this pressure was a little bit different. So of course, being high risk, they're running me for a lot of tests. And now, mind you, I've had white doctors up until now. Now, the white doctors, they're going to definitely do their job. They did their job with me, but they were like, it was all about money. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going to give them the most money? So when I was pregnant with him, I had my first black doctor, my first experience with my black doctor. And I was at Atlanta Medical. And so my son's godmother, she was like, oh, you at Atlanta Medical? They so old. You need an updated hospital. This is another. And I was like, it's not about that. It's about the care that I'm receiving. And this black lady, she told me, she said, I say she's an angel. She was sent to me for a reason. She says, I think you're going to have him early. And I was about 6 months. And she says, I think you're going to have him early. So I want to give you these steroid shots. So if you have him early, that his lungs would be developed. So I'm like, okay. So she was like, yeah, you have to stay in the hospital for 48 hours in order to, get the steroid shots, because we have to monitor your protein and monitor your levels, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm like, okay. They give me the steroid shot. And obviously I was in there longer than that, and I needed to get back to work because, I was the only one making it happen. And I'm like, okay, I can't stay 3 days in here. You told me 2 days. I got to be able to go, yada, yada. And I was like listening to people around me, and I was like, oh, just change and go to an updated doctor, this, that, and other. And I left that lady because I'm like, oh my God, she is so slow. She disappears, da, 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 in my pregnancy feelings. And so I went to a doctor that was at DeKalb Medical. Okay, DeKalb Medical 2018, they had an updated pregnancy ward and all of this good stuff. So as I transfer doctors, I'm working, I'm da da da. Lo and behold, I was supposed to have my son in July of 2018, right? But lo and behold, like, I knew something was different, how I was feeling. And I actually went in labor the week of May 20th. The week of May 20th, I went in labor. So I go to the DeKalb Medical Center in Decatur, Georgia. And I'm telling him, like, oh my God, like, I feel like I'm having contractions and I can't sleep. I can't sit down. This was on a Wednesday. So Tuesday, like, my body was doing the clearing thing. And I was telling my son, godmother, I said, I think my body is clearing me out, preparing for delivery. And so she was like, it's too early though. I'm like, yeah, it is. But I'm like, okay. Wednesday, I was in the hospital. So I was in there for hours. They put me on the monitor. Now, mind you, I had a black doctor in the ER, a black man. He put me on the band. I'm like contracted every 2 to 3 minutes. So they trying to give me something to slow the contractions down. And he's saying, oh, they're Braxton Hicks. Oh my God, you're not in labor. They're Braxton Hicks. Like, okay, calm down. Well, we tried to slow it down. It wouldn't slow down, so we're going to send you home. That's what the black man said now. They sent me home. He said, you got a doctor's appointment in the morning. Go to your doctor in the morning, and then, they'll tell you what to do. I went home. I could not sleep. I'm like, an hour, I'm back up. Right? So I'm like, okay, I know at this point what labor is, okay? I'm 3 children in. I know what labor is. So I get up in the morning and I call a doctor and I'm like, listen, this is what happened. I was in the hospital all night and they sent me home, said that I had to come to the doctor's appointment. I know this is my appointment. I need an early appointment. So they're like, okay, come in. Now, my doctor's appointment is in the same cluster as the CAP Medical. So I go into my doctor's appointment. Now, mind you, they were so packed, but they're pushing me in, right? So it took me, to me, it seemed like it took them an hour to get me back there. So when they get me back there, she's like, oh, hi, how are you? I was like, fine. She was like, okay, great. Now, these are white doctors. So she's like, oh, okay, great. Let's go ahead and get your vitals, and we're going to go ahead and check you back into the hospital. I'm like, what? I'm like, you ain't even said anything to me. She was like, well, we looked at your records from the hospital, and your contractions are 2-3 minutes apart. You shouldn't have never went home last night. So they did my vitals, and they immediately called over and said, hey, we're bringing one, and she needs to check in. I had, at that point, my 4-year-old son with me. And so this is the top of the day. I got to wait on people to wake up. But they checked me back in to the CAP Medical. I was not supposed to be home. They put me in the room. Oh. Stay tuned for the next part.